All financial support for this podcast comes from my patrons on patreon.com. If you'd like to join in with patrons, please check out patreon.com/DarwinGrosse. That's DarwinGrosse. Now enjoy the podcast. Okay, today I get a chance to talk to somebody I'm actually really quite anxious to talk to. His name is Philippe Petit, and I first started really catching wind of him from people in different musical communities saying, hey, check out these collaborations, or check out this work, or check out this radio show called Modulisme. And I just kept on hearing about his name. I got on a mailing list and I started getting the information about what he was doing, and I was blown away. So I reached out to him, and he was kind enough to offer to have a discussion. So with no further ado, let's say hello to Philippe. Hey, Philippe, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. Thanks for asking anything to me. You know, it's very welcome. I'm always pleased to share and discuss.
Sure. Well,
and thanks for the nice words.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I was looking over your body of work, and it's pretty phenomenal. You have so many releases. You've done amazing performances. You're doing this work with the radio show. Why don't I have you describe a little bit about how you think about yourself? What, are you a composer or a performer or just a recording art? What do you consider yourself, and what is some of the work that is you're really active in right now?
Okay, well, for quite a long time, I've been calling myself a musical travel agent, because my desire is to take people into my universe, to make them, escape whatever is their daily life, take them into my musical universe, and hopefully brings a smile to their ears, whatever,
Sure.
So musical travel agent, and I'm trying to tell a story. So originally in the 80s, in 1983, I started doing DJing. So I was a DJ, playing music from other, mainly rock and stuff like that. And the idea was already to tell a story. Even when I was DJing, I had already in mind a beginning and an end. Little by little, years by years, this evolved into that I have a beginning, like a starting point, and then a closing point. And what happens in between, I leave it to the other people. It's like I would provide an architecture, and it's up to the listener to bring in the furniture.
Interesting.
Hopefully that's clear. Meaning that I don't have the pretension to know what's going to be the furniture you want to sit on. That's the meaning of it. It's up to you to make yourself comfortable, and hopefully the music may help. So little by little, so I started being a DJ and stuff, and then I was animating labels. For 25 years, I was running labels. So I did a lot of releases, lots of stuff, worked with many bands. Then at a point, I decided maybe I would be ready to start doing music myself, which is what I did. It was about 13 years ago, more or less. And that's how I developed the musical travel agent thing. Because, I was always meeting people telling me, I am a composer, blah, blah, blah. I was thinking, well, to me, a composer would be someone like Ennio Morricone, for instance. Okay, right. This is a composer, He is a really good composer, and is able to write a score and write for an orchestra and things like that. What you are doing is like you are a musician, but you are not what I would call a composer. To be a composer is something else. It has to go further, much further than just doing music. It's not because you manage to assemble some sounds and make a good result out of it that you are a composer. No, behind that, there must be a way of thinking, lots of things that you may learn from time, actually, or from school. Of course, there are music schools that will teach you everything. but myself, I don't really like those. I mean, I was never into those schools, and I don't really like because it teaches you a lot, but at the same time, it makes barriers because people teach you a way of thinking and a way of being and the way your music should sound, should be. And then you never try something else because you've been taught all those rules, so you follow them. And many people do that. And I think it's a shame. That's why I was really interested in modular synthesis, and especially in Buchla and Don Buchla, because his ideas were really different. You know, he had a different scope, a different way of thinking. Like, for instance, first, he didn't add any, keyboards to his
Right.
whereas when Moog was having a keyboard, Buchla was not, because he would say that if you have a keyboard, you're going to follow traditional way of doing music by playing notes using your keyboard, and he didn't want that. So I got very interested in that way of thinking.
Sure.
So the idea for me is really to sound different, to try to follow a different path, a different way of doing. And I don't know if I manage. I mean, I'm not saying something like I am unique, because everybody is unique in fact, but very few people can invent something new. And I'm not among those people. I know that. I just try to do my best. That's it. I know I'm not inventing something new. I am not even trying to invent something new. That's some very special people who manage to do that. And
right.
everything has been done already, or almost. It's really difficult. When you know a lot about music, and I believe I do, because I've been listening to music for more than 40 years. I've got about 40,000 records. So I think I do know a little bit of music. And the more I know, the more I realize that I know nothing, in fact.
Yeah.
Because you start to look up the mountain, and then you see another mountain. So you're like, oh, wow. Then there are so many behind, and then so many, and then so many records. So it's never ending, and I love that because I'm really passionate. So that would be another way to define myself. I'm very passionate. And maybe that's why I do so much, because, I'm just always thinking, okay, I have to do this, and this, I want to do that, and that, and that, and that. And it's endless.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you say that you're not a inventor. I'm not sure if I agree with that, but what I did notice in going through a lot of your work is that you're very much fearless, right? I saw videos of you just like decimating turntables, right? Or I saw you with a bow on some kind of crazy stringed instrument working with a collaborator who was using a laptop. I've heard work of you with a Buchla and with other analog systems doing this like really pure and focused analog stuff, kind of at a time when that wasn't even necessarily considered cool at the time, right? It seems like you have been fearless about trying things that are exciting to you.
Yes, totally. It's because I wasn't trained to do anything. So I'm just daring to do whatever I want. I mean, why wouldn't I try that?
Sure.
What's the problem? Then, I have my ears, and I've been used to listening to so much music that if it doesn't sound good, I hear it. I can hear it,
Mm-hmm.
Of course, this is not objective, but I mean, that's my ears.
Right.
So that's the way I want it to sound.
It's it's as objective as you want it to be, right?
Exactly. I mean, it's my world.
Yeah.
As I said originally, I am trying to take you into my musical world, and hopefully you may like it. If not, okay, no problem. I'm not trying to force anyone. I just do it because I have it inside, and it has to come out.
Right.
It needs to come out. And I would try a lot of things because I like the idea of being like a child, using different toys and trying to stay spontaneous using them.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, even it's one of those things where some people like really gravitate toward wanting to be like a virtuoso on one instrument, and there are other people who find their artistry in the joy of almost a fresh perspective on whatever they're doing.
Yes, and you become virtuoso after a while because
of your own voice, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, obviously, when I'm spending, I don't know how many hours a day, but probably 14, 15 hours a day on my Buchla system, for instance. So obviously, I'm learning and I'm getting virtuoso with it.
Right.
That's for sure. But I still leave everything open to surprise, and that's why I love it. And it's the same thing with turntables. When I'm still doing some turntablism. So first of all, what you saw was me manipulating my sounds because I am having made some unique pieces of vinyls with my sound on them.
Okay.
Then I go and manipulate those vinyls with my sound on them. But of course, when I put the needle on, I don't know where the needle will land.
Right.
I have no idea. I must be ready to play with whatever is happening. And I must be good enough to be able to do that.
Right.
So to me, it's very similar to modular synthesis, because when I'm turning a knob, well, okay, I have an idea of what is going to happen, but I'm never sure, 100% sure, and I don't want to be sure.
Right.
No. I want to be surprised. That's the idea. I like to be surprised. And that's also why, when you are talking about the amount of work I've been doing and all those collaborations and things, it's because first of all, I want every album of mine to be different from the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
Very important to me as a composer. If I may call myself a composer, I would say this is part of my compositional process.
Very interesting. Well, this is really amazing, but it also makes me wonder what your background is. How did you grow up to be a person that is as mentally and sort of like emotionally free to do this kind of exploring as you are? I think a lot of people hear the way that you describe this and kind of be curious about if you weren't a trained musician, how did you get to be functional as a musician? But also, how did you put yourself in a position to be able to be a valuable collaborator with other possibly very well-trained musicians?
Okay, the first part of the question, how did I become like that? In the 70s, I was a punk, and I think I am still very much a punk in my head, in a way that, to me, being a punk is to be free. Like those people who are going on stage, grabbing an instrument and playing it. So that's the punk in me. Then in the 80s, I got more interested in the hardcore because the do-it-yourself was appealing to me. It was like, instead of the no future of punk, it was like, no, do it yourself. There is a future. Do it yourself. So that's when I started doing fanzines, doing labels, doing radio programs, doing DJing, etc., which will bring us to the second part of your question. How did I manage to work with some people like Lydia, for instance, that she would be made one of the most famous, or Cosey, Fanni, Tutti from Tutti. So those people, how do I manage to convince those people? First of all, running labels, I knew them. Doing radio shows, I had opportunities to interview. Or I was also a writer in magazines for a long time. So I could interview, I could help them, I could help spread their music. And I was there like very early, like in the end of the 70s, I was already a punk. Then in the 80s, I was active. So I could I could make myself known by some people like this, helping them, for instance.
Right.
So then, after a while, I could at least, send them some music and say, well, now I'm doing this. Maybe you like. Maybe you would, for Lydia, for instance, maybe you would put some vocals on it, or same thing with Cosey from Buchla. And yeah, they said, oh yeah, we like it. Okay, we could do it. Which for me was the most gratifying things, because obviously they didn't need me at all. They were like so famous in comparison with me, but so they don't need me. It's really, they liked the music, so they gave me some confidence. So that's how I could approach many people. It's like if I wanted some trumpet, I would ask Andy Diagram, but because I had done 5 albums with the Space Set, which was his main band, before I played with Perubu or those people, he was in the Space Set that I was releasing on Pandemonium, my first label, then on Bebop, my second label. So, that's people I know, and that's how I can approach them. Because for me, we are just like a community or a family, I used to call it, really. It's very important to me. And it's the same thing with Modulisme that I'm really running a lot these days. It's like to help some people, because I think it's really unfortunate that talented people don't get the attention they should deserve. But that's the way it is. And I know I'm not going to change it that much, but at least I can do something. At least I can try. And that, I think, in general, the way of living in existence, I think that if each of us would bring a little pebble into a huge wall of positiveness, the world may change. If we don't, it won't. So I'm trying to bring my little people.
Sure. Well, it's really amazing, because it makes a lot of sense to me then when I look at, like, if I go to your musical travel agent Bandcamp page, I'll have a link for that in the show notes. The variety of people, and in fact, even when you do kind of like quote solo albums, it's oftentimes Philippe Petit and friends, right? It's really clear that music for you is a very social thing, and you draw your friends in.
Yes, absolutely. It has to be. Music is sharing. It's really important to me. Like, you have to share, and the best way. And then life is sharing, because to me, music is life. It's my life. I spend most of my day doing music, and sometimes my nights as well. So, it's life, and life, you should be sharing with people, and you should also be exchanging with people, because that's the best way to improve. And I'm just trying to do this, that's all. That's all I'm doing, everybody should be doing that, and, well, it's not happening, I know, but, at least.
Well, it's kind of interesting, because as supposedly the internet makes sharing very easy, but it still seems hard to like put yourself out there and do the sharing. I mean, the machine is there to do it, but you still have to actually emotionally be willing to share as well, right?
Yeah, and also you have to insist in a way that the internet, it has a lot of advantages, that's for sure. But on another end, it is killing desire, because the problem is that you click and get it. You click, you buy a module. You click, you get free music. You click, you get free movie, whatever,
Right.
Now, I mean, I grew up with passions, learning like to desire, because I had to order, for instance, I wanted some special vinyl, I had to order them in New York. Let's say I wanted some garage music back in the 80s, I had to buy from Midnight Records in New York. If I wanted some post-punk, I had to buy from Rough Trade in London.
Yeah.
So, I had to order, and sometimes I had to wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks, for my vinyl to arrive. So when it was arriving, wow, you spend some time looking at it, and then you listen to it several times. It was just amazing. These days, this is not happening. So there is no more desire. You get everything too easily. And that way you don't consider the same, what you get.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought of those things being connected, but you're right. When you would need to do something special, you would have to order it and then you would wait. And during that waiting period, you would obsess about it and you would be anxiously waiting for it. And it would build up that level of passion inside of you. So then when it would come, if it was an album, you would listen to it many times because you had built up such a passion for it just because you had to wait. Now, and I mean, even with instruments, other than buying hardware or like modules, I mean, if you're using software, you can say, hey, I want an additive synth, and I can go online and I can get a plug-in and it's mine in 20 milliseconds, right?
Yeah, but then how many times will you use it?
Right.
That's also the other point. Like, for instance, you see those people buying modules and reselling them after 3 days, after a week. Like, yeah, I tried it on and it doesn't work. Oh, well, I beg your pardon, but you should give some time to the module. You should live with it a little bit, You should, try everything it can do before you sell it. But no, it's just a society of consumption. It's capitalist, capitalistic. You get an urge to buy because, and also there is so much temptation. It's terrible. People, how could they resist? I don't blame people, I totally understand. There is too much. So it's difficult to focus. But you need to focus, because if not, you don't manage to anything. And that would bring us back to being a composer or not. I mean, when you are a composer, when you do some music, there is not like a proper accident. Accidents may happen in the process of playing, but when you start, you have a precise idea. Like if I start really doing composition, not when I'm not talking when I do my live on modular or thing, because this is improvisation and this is the pleasure of playing it and doing it. And same thing with turntables. But when I really compose, what you could hear on the Bandcamp, I have a very precise idea. And from that idea, I would decide, do I want to use my cymbalum? Do I want to use a guitar? Do I want to use my Buchla? What do I want to express this idea I have in mind? And sometimes it would be, okay, I have started. Well, now I need a cello. Okay, I will ask someone. Then I need a trumpet, maybe. Okay, I would ask someone else. Then I need a voice. I would ask someone who can do it better than I would, or than any software would. And the idea is that if you are a real composer, first you have the idea. Then the instrument will be the tool to express the idea. It's not because you have a new module that you are going to make music. No.
And you're going to compose. The new module will not compose, right? Yeah.
No, exactly. And this is happening too much, I'm afraid. And I'm not trying to judge anyone, because what I respect the most is the pleasure of being alive because you are playing. Because that's the way it is. Psychologically, that's the way it is. You play, you are feeling alive. And this is the most important thing. So great, keep on playing, keep on having fun. But don't pretend you are a composer if you are just having fun with a module. No, there must be something behind it. That's it. And there is really a difference. Like for instance, you see a lot of people, showing pictures of their big modular system, and then showing how they would demo, but they wouldn't post any music.
Right.
Real music. Yeah, they show us demo, they all work the system, and perfect. We need those people. It's great. And at least, maybe they understood. They're not going to make music. They are just playing and having fun, and that's perfect.
Right.
That's perfect. This I encourage. Anyone should get a modular and play. So fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so
but
fun.
that idea of saying that, grabbing an instrument and having fun, that kind of does cast back to your early days as a punk. And one of the things I've noticed is that there are a lot of people from kind of a punk background that find themselves gravitating towards modular synths. Why do you think that that might be?
Well, evolution, probably. Because from punk, they probably went on to some more complicated, more complex music, maybe something improvised, and then some experimental. And if you stay in music, you keep discovering different things. And if you are interested in experimental music, because even when I was a punk, one of my favorite bands was The Residents or Tuxedo Moon, as well as Cramps, for instance.
Sure.
And there is a lot in between those, But, difference, yeah? But if you're interested in experimenting, to me, it makes sense that being with a punk mind, in the beginning, you would want to experiment then with something very complex because you want to be surprised. Maybe that's one of the reasons. But I don't know. I don't know what people think. To me, that's what happened. It was little by little. I was totally attracted by it, and it took time. It really took time. But then when I really discovered, wow, but that's how I could do it. Wow, then there's no end. There's no ending.
Right. So now, in addition to the work that you have out on Bandcamp, you also do releases on Opalaka Records. And those have a very particular focus. They seem to be very, very modular, very analog, and also very detailed at the analog level.
Totally. Yes. I attach a lot of importance to detail. That's for sure. And Opalaka is a label which is totally devoted to releasing electronic music, and they have a very consistent catalog. So I was quite happy when they said yes to me. The coincidence was that the demo I had sent was my first recording using a Buchla. So it was the Easel, and I was using it, and they loved it. They said, "Wow, yeah, we like it, and we have never released anything like that, so let's do it." So that's what happened. So that was last year.
Okay.
Because, it's only 1 year that I've been doing. It's exactly this month, it's 1 year that I got my Buchla, the first.
Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Only 1 year.
Well, now you have you have a second record coming out with Opalaka, though, right?
Yes. So the first one was Descent into the Maelstrom, and it was Buchla Easel only.
Okay.
Then there is this new album. It just came out, which is called "Do Humans Dream of Electronic Ships?"
Yeah.
So it's an homage to Blade Runner, to science fiction.
Yep.
And on it, I'm using Buchla, of course, but lots of things. I'm also using some Moog, I'm using some piano, some percussion, some vinyl, of course, turntablism. I'm using some psalterion, which is a string instrument that you saw in that video you were mentioning earlier.
Yes.
I'm using some cymbalum, I'm using some guitar, some organ, some, what else? The Buchla I said. Some roll-around normal traditional synthesizer. Lots of instruments, in fact, on it. And I tried to have everything sound different, but at the same time very with a big unity, of course, because it's an album. And there is a second disc on which there is a live, like in space, which is an homage to that dog that was sent to space with no return.
Yes.
Any return. So I tried to describe the sufferance. So this is a 50-minute live recording. It's a bonus CD, and there is a second song on it, Why Do Birds, which is also like a modular Buchla live recording. So it's a big thing. It's a double CD, and it has lots of variety. And again, it's an opolaka.
Well, the excerpts I heard were beautiful. I'm going to be getting, I'm going to be ordering it because I actually am really drawn to the kind of work that you did on this. And again, it's that level of detail that really reaches out to me. But also, it's interesting because despite the fact that you brought in a lot of different instruments, it still really brings forward the Buchla sound. I would say the Buchla sound is at the center of the work, right?
Yes, it's at the center of my life.
So you've only had the Buchla for a year, though, right? That's what you just said.
Yeah.
So what?
Yes.
How did you, first of all, how did you decide to try it? Because it's not easy to get one and it's not inexpensive to get one. So you have to make a big decision in order to get it. But also it's very much an instrument that you have to learn. And so you would have had to decide that, okay, I'm going to dedicate a significant part of my life to learning this thing, right?
Absolutely. So I'm following courses of electroacoustic composition and electroacoustic music at the conservatory here in Marseille. So the second year, the teacher started with modular synthesis. And although I had been doing lots of electronic manipulation for like many, many years, I had never tried modular synthesis per se. And so I was like, oh, wow. So we started it. He had a COBOL system, so we started experimenting with it. I was like, wow, I like it a lot. So then I got the Arturia, Arturia software.
Right.
So I got those Arturia, and I was having fun at home with Arturia and trying things. And then I tried Easel on Arturia. And I had a controller, and I was having fun, and I was like, wow, I really like this sound. It's really good. So I started watching videos, and lots of Todd Barton. I was watching these videos. I was like, wow, that sounds good, Then I was starting to buy records by people using the Buchla. And I knew only Morton Subotnick. I knew because luckily I saw him play live in, I think, 2004. And he was playing with my great friend that we had a duo together, Lydia, who was in the early 2000 in the Rec and Zentrum, a great band on Mid-Plateau, electronic band. And Lydia he is one of the best DJs at the time, at least in Europe. So once we had a collaboration together. So then when he came with Morton Subotnick, I was invited at dinner with them. So I had dinner with Morton and Dylan, and we were discussing things and stuff. It was great, But at the time, I loved the performance, but I had no idea about Buchla or whatever. So too bad it was too early. But at least, we stayed in contact, we stayed friends with Morton, and then, of course, I bought his records, and I really liked them. But that's all I knew. And then little by little, I got lots of other. But anyway, I was into the Arturia using, and then I decided I need a real one. I just need the Easel. So I went online and started to search for it. I was like, it's not so easy to find. It's expensive. And there was that Easel K. I was like, whoa, that's really interesting because this is not a keyboard and it's a really strange eagle thing,
Right.
And I was like, okay. So I bought it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to buy it. So I bought it and managed to get a good price for it from KMR in England. And they had one in stock. So, lucky me, I got it. And I started just rehearsing it and just playing it and having a fantastic time. It really changed everything. So that's how it happened. So
So
it was a move that we made after trying a lot
Yeah.
the Arturia. When I said trying a lot, it was like 3 months, but 3 months was enough for me to know. I knew I wanted it.
that's
So
really interesting. So you said it's the Easel K. That's the one that has like that Thunderbird style touchpad instead of the normal thing that looks like a
Yes.
keyboard, right?
It has the two to three,
Right.
keyboard thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you call it? Kinesthetic controller. Like
Yes.
crazy name, the name says it all. Experimenting, it's crazy. And I mean, the controller is probably too powerful just for the easel.
Right.
This is a controller for a 200 system,
Yeah.
in fact. Yeah, that's for sure. But, it's good. And I just realized that the way I play it was not touching the controller that much, in fact. I'm more hands-on with the rest. Not that much the controller,
Interesting.
to be honest. Yeah. I'm really into, movement, gesture, as you realized, watching my turntables and thing, is very important to me. So I have to touch, I have to move the knobs, I have to move the sliders and all this. For me, that's part of the thing. I'm really moving all the time. Maybe too much. Maybe I should contemplate a little bit. Maybe I should let the system play a bit alone. But no, I just need to touch.
You're not going to do it, right?
I see myself like a craftsman.
Right.
I have to sculpt my sound. So I keep touching, I keep changing all the time. To me, it's boring if it doesn't change. Like these days, when I listen to some basic techno with like a 4 to the 4, and then every 4 there's going to be a little change, to me it's boring. No,
Right.
To me it has to lead, it has to breathe, things have to happen, it has to be chaotic, and yeah, definitely. Maybe too much, but...
Yeah, it's interesting to me that the easel really does make that kind of physical interaction important.
Absolutely. The sliders.
Yes.
I put my hand on the play. I'm able, after a while, after like 6-7 weeks, I was able to move the sliders so fast, like I'm doing with the turntable.
Mm-hmm.
I move very fast, my fingers. I'm used to that. So with the sliders, I'm moving them all the time. It's really fast, and it changes all the time, and it's really good.
And you can be subtle, but you can also make really huge variations. And to me, it's different. I see a lot of people with modular systems. A lot of their work is like making sequencers or LFOs doing all of the knob turning for them. And I'm just like, turn it with your hands. That sounds great,
Yeah. The sequencer, it's my hands.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's definitely my hand. I often see the question, how can I move the sequencer with the easel? How can I vary it? But come on, put your hands on it. You have to change it all the time. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
That's the only way. And please don't tell me you need some uncertainty. You need some all of these things. Now, come on, do it yourself. That's the best way. Don't sit down and look at the machine doing the job. And again, it's like I said earlier, when you are a composer, you don't let an instrument or a machine do the job. No.
Define the composition, right? Yeah.
You want to do the job yourself.
Right. So true.
You know what you want. And normally you should know how to achieve what you want. So that's the way you do it.
Right.
Yeah, it's really important. And
so let's talk a little bit about the modulism.
It's like modulism.
Right. This is a thing that it's really unique because it sort of is like a podcast and it's sort of like an interview, but you're almost flipped opposite of what I do, which is your interview is written and then you provide like an hour's worth of music. Now, is that because I know that this is put out there as a radio program? Do you do it an hour long so it fits in a radio slot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Basically, that's the point. But at the same time, for me, modulism, it's like labels. So I want to open up, but I am fed up with all the business side of the labels. I am fed up with being forced to harass distribution companies, wait for payment, etc., going to the post office to send the records. Okay, I'm fed up with this. I've done that for like 25 years, so it's okay. So,
you've had enough.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to offer the music for free. So it's free, but you don't download it. You have to come, visit Modulisme, and listen to it. We have a player for it. You listen to it. And nobody is pirating our player because my designer, which is fucking excellent, he did it. And so far, obviously it could be, but nobody is going to spend time, to build a program to pirate our thing?
Right.
We are not big enough. So that's fine. We have it. You have to come and listen to it. And for now, we have exceeded 80,000 listens, which is incredible. To me, it was like, what?
Yeah.
So many people. But I think you said it. It's unique in a way that before I could do this modulism thing, what I could find online was, Neuf Fiddler, it's fantastic. Then there were lots of demoing and lots of people showing their system and some people posting their albums, etc. But nothing building like a community sort of thing.
Right.
And really, really being there to share the music and to focus on featuring some composers. Because the people who gave you some music, as you know, because you probably know most of them, they are composers. They are well-known composers because they've been into it like for so long.
Right.
Like, for instance, when you think Scanner, when you think Todd Barton, Doug Liner, Alexei Borisov, I mean, those people have been around since the 80s for like Borisov and Todd Barton or even Scanner, and it's even earlier. Doug Liner, it's in the 70s.
Right.
I mean, okay, well, those people have been around for so long. Or ECT, he was in the 70s. He was one of the first working for Serge.
Right.
So those people have been around. They are very talented. At the same time, I'm inviting some people who are less known, because for me it's important to have a lot of people who are talented. That's it. And to share their music. So first, it's 4 radio shows, so 4 radio are playing them.
Okay.
Then it's like a magazine that is Modulisme. As you said, there is an interview. Each interview is relayed by Freck magazine, which is a UK-based magazine that's been around for like 24 years already. So it's a really good one for experimental music. Some French magazines are also featuring here and there, not everything, but some. So yeah, I mean, and there are resources, because I want people to understand what modular synthesis is. And then very soon there's going to be some special articles about those people who invent their instrument. Because I think it has to be done, And so I will call it, it's going to be a new tab. It's going to be called Itatium, which is inventors talking about their instruments or modules.
Interesting. Oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we start with Buchla. So I got an interview with Joël Davel and Eric from Buchla USA. And of course, to accompany that big interview and all those explanations, I wanted to assemble a compilation. And so there's going to be a 7-hour of music done with Buchla, which are going to be available with music from Tutti, Sarah Bellred, Miguel Frasconi, Todd Barton. I mean, so many. I'm just amazed, because it's like, wow, it's a mammoth of a competition.
Yeah, but I think that you're tapping something important there, because people really seem to want to align themselves with Buchlas, right? There's not that many people that want to say, hey, think of me as a Waldorf person, right? Or think of me as but a lot of people are very happy to say, to say, I identify myself as a Buchla player.
It's true, because Buchla is something so special.
Yeah.
So, of course. But don't get me wrong, I don't want to be considered like I am a Buchla thing. No, I'm just trying
You're just
my best
honoring it there, yes.
to use as many resources as possible, to use a different instrument depending on what I want. I will change the vehicle. But for modular synthesis, that's for sure my favorite is the Buchla. Yeah, this is true. I mean, I love Synthi as well. It's really good. But yeah, for now, Buchla gets the best. This is my favorite. Yeah. My favorite.
Well, Philippe, unfortunately, our time is up. But before we go, what I'd like to do is just have you just drop some info on where people can find out more information about yourself and the wide variety of work that you're doing.
Well, if you want to follow, there is philippepetit.info.
Okay.
Then there is Modulisme, so it's modulisme.info.
Okay.
Those are pretty much resourceful.
Right. Well, and from your Philippe Petit .info, you can actually get to like your Bandcamp and your videos and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are links to everything, and but of course, the Bandcamp. That's great.
Yeah.
Don't get lost, because there is someone called Philippe Petit, an homonym, and he does techno. Really 4 to the 4th techno. He's really good at it, but he does techno. And lots of people befriend me on Facebook thinking it's me.
That's you, right?
And I tell them, no, this is the other one. And it happens to him as well. So yeah, if you hear some techno, basic techno, that's not me.
Yeah, go a different way, right? Well, we'll make sure that we put good links on the show notes for the the podcast, and we'll get people going there. So with that, I want to thank you so much for having this time, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to have this call.
My pleasure, really. Thank you so much. As I said, I'm totally happy to share with someone else who is doing a radio program, because I've been doing radio programs since 1983. So to me, we are the same. We are animated by the same passion to transmit. So it's my pleasure to know you and talk to you.
Yeah,
definitely. And to your listeners, of course, and thanks to them for listening to me.
All right. Well, with that, we'll head out. Thank you so much. Bye now. All right. Many thanks to Philippe for having a great chat. Boy, we went all over the place, but it was really interesting to hear about, especially his view on collaboration and the idea of really enjoying and using the opportunity to make music making be social. And I think in these days when we're all kind of hunkered down, the idea of social behavior is something that we need to be paying attention to. I hope that you're keeping safe. I hope that you're paying attention to the world around you and just like kind of holding up and not putting yourself at risk. I know I'm spending an awful lot more time kind of hunkered in. In the meantime, if you want to learn more about Philippe's work, please check out the show notes. They're over at artmusictech.libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com. You can get extended notes at the Patreon site. That's patreon.com/DarwinGrosse, DarwinGrosse. And if you have any comments, complaints, concerns, ideas for me to interview, please reach out, drop me a line at ddg@cycling74.com, ddg@20objects.com, or darwin.gross@gmail.com. I respond to them all. Looking forward to hearing from you. Again, stay safe, but reach out, be part of the community, find friends, and engage with them. We all need people. So with that, I want to thank you, and we'll catch you next time around. Bye.